If you want to know how strong indoctrination maintains its hold on people, even when they start deconstructing from the Bible, this is a perfect example of that. Now, I'm not trying to be rude to my guy here, but I need you to understand that the indoctrination that you have experienced, either by just living in America, living in Africa, living in Europe, just by being under the indoctrination of Christianity of any type or form, causes you to, even when you deconstruct from some of it, you still try to maintain a hold on whatever part of this religion you possibly can. You see, this religion has been so invasive in our lives that when we know we need to walk away from it, we still try to hold on to some aspect of it. So let's go over what this gentleman is saying, and then I'm going to give you the real information, the real education, so that you can clearly see that what you are saying is just you trying to make it work, make it fit, make Christianity, Judaism fit in your life, much like the Hebrew Israelites and other cultures, other black subcultures have done. So what did my man here say? He says that he's been away from Christianity for years, but he cannot discredit everything from the Old Testament. It's a tribe in Biafra, I'm probably saying that wrong, that defy his own belief system. No, it is not defying your belief system. It is defying your willingness to research the information and accept whatever the facts of the information is. That's what is defying, because you desire to hold on to this, some semblance of this book to make it fit, because you need some religion to believe in. And that's the biggest problem here. You say, so this Igbo people DNA traces back to biblical Gad, and their cultural traditional custom represents more of an ancient Judaism we've never seen before. No, we've seen this before. We've seen this in many situations. So what you're basically describing is the people in this state, and I'm not even going to say, I'm going to call it the bi-state, Bifa, because I'm saying it, I know I'm saying it wrong. But these people were in this state who were colonized, and this is in the area of Nigeria. They were colonized by the British. After being colonized by the British, there was a Muslim incursion. So Islam and Christianity became the primary religions forced upon these people. Now, because they had their traditional religion, which is pronounced, I believe, Obanani, or you can pronounce it Obanala, it's spelled both ways. These religions were then merged together with Christianity after there was a massive war that happened in around the 1960s, 1970s, killed about 2 million people. And so these people have maintained this idea of their religion, primarily now Christianity, which is has a mixture of their original indigenous religion, just like you see with Voodoo and you see with Santeria. You see these different forms of Christianity that are mixed in with the indigenous people, and they force it to work together with one another, when in truth, they just simply don't. And I'm going to break down this religion a little bit deeper. But first, let me give you some facts. Now, I want you to think about something. What you are saying is that the tribe of Gad, which would mean that this is from the sons of Jacob, which comes from Abraham, which Abraham comes from the tribe of Shem, which is from the flood. Now, the flood happened, according to the Bible, the flood had to have happened around 2200 BCE. That is your start date of the flood. That is your start date of Shem. Shem then has generations of people before he gets to Abraham. And then Abraham has Isaac, and Isaac has Jacob. And you can look at the years by which they claim that they have had these people. So the earliest time frame of Gad would have to be somewhere in the neighborhood of around 1800 BCE, 1900 BCE at the earliest that you could get Gad. So that's around the rough time. The earliest would be around 2100, but be real, it's around 1800 time frame that you would get this tribe of Gad, maybe even later in the 1700s BCE, if this story was real. Now, that's your line. That's your year. So what you're saying is that these Igbo people never existed prior to around 1700 BCE, more likely even later. But when archaeologists look at the Igbo people, first thing, the Igbo people, we have evidence that the Igbo people, or there was people in that area, that people that existed in the area around 250,000 years ago. And even if you didn't want to accept that they came from the Issue people, there are traces of human presence in that area at 10,000 BCE. But let's say you don't even want to accept that one. But around 6,000 BCE, we have pottery that demonstrate that they had settlements in that area, which is known as Igbo land, in that area around 6,000 BCE. And that in Aqua, in 1978, we found that this pottery existed in there and that this dates back to around 6,000 BCE. Even if you didn't want to accept that, the University of Benin they discovered that there are fossils and pottery and monoliths that date back to 4,500 BCE. We are thousands of years before you get to Gad. And then there are metal workings that they have discovered that date back to 3,000 BCE. So we are still a couple of 1,500 years prior to Gad even being born. So explain to me then, how can these people be from the tribe of Gad if they were in existence prior to Gad? Now, you may say those people got wiped out because of the flood. But the problem that you still have there is that these people show that they have existed before the flood, during the flood, and after the flood. That they have never had an interruption in their history, whether it is through the oral tradition, or we're looking at the fact of their potteries and their settlements and things of that nature. They never had a gap. This land has never been flooded in the way that the biblical story tries to tell you. The Old Testament, that you still validate, that they were not there. But even if we look beyond that, the people that were even closer, we have the Kerma civilization that is roughly in Sudan. They were in existence around 2,500 to 50, all the way down to 1,500 BCE before they were absorbed by the New Kingdom in Egypt. But the pre-Kerma people existed at 3,500 BCE. There was no interruption in the Kerma people in Sudan for a flood to have occurred. They existed all the way until they were absorbed in 1,500 BCE by the Egyptians. And even prior to them in Eritrea, you had the Gash group, which is a Neolithic group around 3,000 BCE, existing all the way to 1,800 BCE before they became part of the Kushite people. And this was also in West Sudan as well. So, sir, it is an impossibility for the people, the Igbo people, or any of the tribes of Africa to have come from the tribes of Israel. Now, what you are looking at is how they have adopted the Judaic religion into their group, their religion, and try to make it work, and then claim aspects of this book because they have been born and raised into this book. So they themselves don't want to let this go. They don't want to go back to their understanding from their Odinali religion of Chechua being the supreme, the God, the invisible supreme God, and that from that God you had Eri, who came down and established societies and universe with Allah. Now that was a 9th century creation, but even prior to that, they believed that there were many deities or energies, and the divine feminine and the divine masculine created and manifested the universe. If anything, their Odinali religion with their ancestral veneration sounds more Hermetic than it sounds Jewish, because it talks about ancestors on the higher plane affecting things on the lower plane, and things on the lower plane affecting things on the higher plane, as above, so below. They also have versions of reincarnation where you reincarnate temporarily into a person's body, a newborn baby, but then you leave, and it's not a permanent thing. So, and it can only do it with other humans. So it's not like the Indus religion. So they are far away from anything that resembles Judaism, because there is no reincarnation. There aren't other deities. There aren't invisible deities. And every plant and animal and everything on the planet has a spirit in Ordinali, not in Judaism. So it is very different. They are forcing their way into this book because that's what they was trained to. You have to be able to let it